Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special launch week edition of Office Hours. We had our big launch week last week, launched a lot of new stuff, EdgeDB 5, EdgeDB Cloud free tier. We launched some new integrations. We launched a hackathon. And so we're here today to answer all of your questions about that or whatever else you can come up with. Alexandra, would you like to talk a little bit about the hackathon? I think in the last one of these, we just had the absolute basics in place. So maybe it would be good to detail some more of that if you are able.
Yeah, sure. So I will go over all the basics that we've already shared. So the hackathon is like the length is 1 month. You have till May 26th to submit a project. You can sign up to our application through hackathon.edgedb.com, and then you can submit a project through the app. We have 3 judges, Christine from Honeycomb, Guillermo from Vercel, and Tia from the creator of T3 and Ping.gg, and so on. So the idea is like the main rule is to use EdgeDB to some extent and to also host the application on Vercel, but otherwise all the tech stack is up to you. You can use Next.js or you can use Next, SvelteKit, or whichever framework you want. You can join individually, or you can team up, and it's up to you how many team members you have, and then like the price will be split among all members. And yeah, so after May 26th, we'll have a few days. I think like a bit over 1 week to judge all the submissions, and then we will announce the results on 10th of June. And I think we'll also have a summary event, like when we will showcase all the projects. So this is like the basics, and let me know if you have any specific questions about the like projects. What sort of projects are you expecting to receive? So any project, like whatever you see, like whatever you want to build that uses EdgeDB, feel free to build it. We have the best overall app category for like all the submissions, but you also can win a prize in the funniest app category. So if you have any idea for a joke kind of app, then feel free to submit it. And otherwise, it's totally up to you. And we don't have any strict expectations on what kind of apps we want.
People continually surprise us with what they build with HTTP, so we're leaving the door open to more of that. Also, it might be worth saying that we have created a channel here on the Discord for discussion of the hackathon. And so if you want to take part, you should hop over there and check that out. I think there may be a few people discussing what they're going to work on, so maybe you could derive some inspiration from that, or maybe you want to join forces and build along with one of them. And we're also doing a prize for the person who is most helpful on Discord, right, Alexandra?
Yeah. So basically, if you're not really into coding an application, you can still win a prize by sharing your knowledge on EdgeDB with others, or not really about just EdgeDB, about anything that people may ask about in the hackathon channel.
Yeah, anything that could be helpful. So, and you're not required to submit any kind of project to be eligible for that. It looks like Scott has already started answering some of our questions. So we had one about the sign-in button on the template. And Is it that there is an update for that template? Is that the issue, Scott? The user was using an older version.
No, there's a variable that you configure when you set up the auth helper library. And right
Okay.
now in the template, it's just hard coded to localhost, but that needs to you'll need to update that to make it more dynamic to how you're hosting it. We could probably do some work and open and PR's welcome for this if anyone has any good experience here. Since most people are going to be or since everybody for the hackathon is going to be deploying on Vercel, there's probably some shortcuts to getting like what this URL should be from the environment itself. So if anyone has any good experience with Vercel and wants to jump in and make a PR there, that would be great. But right now, yeah, you'll just have to update that variable.
Sounds good. Another question. Can you talk a bit about the auth packages that integrate with frameworks like Remix?
I don't know which part of that you specifically want me to talk about, but I can just say what they do roughly. So the auth extension itself is really a little bit of schema and a bunch of HTTP endpoints that you interact with, and the framework packages to wrap up calling those HTTP endpoints in an idiomatic way for each framework, so that it's easy. Like for instance, in Next.js, we have wrappers that create server actions for you and set up the routing that you need for doing the various like sign in, sign out, and built-in UI and that sort of thing. There's nothing, you don't have to use those. If you look at the guide in our docs, you can see a totally vanilla Node.js implementation of what actually is happening under the hood. Like what are the HTTP calls that we're making and how are we managing the cookies and all that stuff. But those framework helper libraries just kind of abstract all of that away and give you something that is kind of idiomatic for the framework. But if you have any specific questions or running into any issues, definitely flag it either here, we can talk about it synchronously, or in Discord, or open an issue.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. What else do we have? We have, is there a way to run two queries in a transaction where one uses the default client settings and one doesn't? And it looks like you've also responded to that, Scott. There's an open issue for updating the state in a transaction that would allow this. So currently not, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think some of the bindings support it and some of them don't, maybe.
Okay.
The protocol
Right.
fully supports it. We just need to make sure all the bindings are up to date there.
Gotcha.
Did that PR get backported to 4 also, Sully, or just to 5?
Find out. Probably not to 4x.
Oh, it's on,
released to 4x.
since it's on 4.
No, I don't
Thank you.
think so yet. No, probably not. Or someone said it was.
Well, we'll check into that. It's definitely on 5 though. Carson, since you've actually done this, or you were the one who brought this up originally, is that working now in the driver? Do you know?
Sounds like yes.
Carson says yes. Lovely.
For the hackathon, is it okay if we build side services to use with the application that need to be deployed on workers? I would assume that that's okay, but I might defer to Alexandra once she's...
Yes. So we have this strict requirement to because we do this hackathon like together with Vercel. So not only you have to use some of EdgeDB, but also some of Vercel. So if you can figure out a use case for Vercel, then it's all good. That's just then it's up to you what exactly, like if you use like a key value store from Vercel for something or whatever. Not everything have to be hosted on Vercel, but it has to be used to some extent. So that's the answer here.
Makes sense. It looks like Nikita is deploying a project to Vercel tomorrow with branches on PRs using the template. Awesome. Can we recommend how to best do this with the... Oh, sorry. So image search. He's going to have image search in his project. And can we recommend how to best do this with the AI extension? You would probably need some way to describe the images first, because I don't think the AI extension will help you with that. But if you can do that, then whatever property you store those descriptions in, I think you can kind of just use the AI guide that we have up now to index that using the AI extension, and then you would be able to search. Does that sound reasonable to everyone?
Yeah, you could stick some AI in that flow and generate the image descriptions. But I don't think we have anything built in that will help you with that step, like basically turn an image into an embedding that the RAG search could use. I'm sure there's some good blog posts for doing that in general, and then the AI extension could be the piece that just does the RAG. But I'm not familiar enough with that world to know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Looks like there's already some relevant answers there in the chat.
Oh, there we go.
I'm going to share a guide I wrote a while ago. It doesn't use EdgeDB, but you can use it with EdgeDB instead of I think I wrote it with Supabase. But basically, it explains how I used the transformers.js package. So I'm showing it in the chat.
Very cool. Thank you.
And what I did was like the image similarity search.
Nice. We've got a request for you, Sully. Would love to hear from Sully on what he's thinking about next for the compiler. And we're not going to commit you to anything, so speak freely.
All right. So the two big things coming up, in addition to bug fixing work, is we've got some performance stuff that we're planning to do, mostly on compiler performance and migration performance, and we'll see how well that goes. There are a bunch of sort of algorithmic things in the system. And then also, we might finally bust out something that was dangled to me as one of the incentives to take this job like 4 years ago, which is my previous job at Dropbox. One of the things I built was MyPyC, along with Yuka Letasalo, which is a MyPy-based compiler for Python. So we might be trying that out here at EdgeDB. We'll see. It sped up MyPy by like 4 to 5x, so we'll see how we do.
I thought you were going to say we were finally going to get to use Dropbox Paper for something.
The other thing I'm going to be working on is in-place upgrades. We have a theory for how we can do upgrades between major versions without requiring a dump restore. And I think it will probably work. So that will be exciting, because it'll make upgrades a lot smoother, lower downtime.
Nice. Here we have a request for a Visual Studio Code plugin for EdgeQL and ESDL formatting. I believe that's contingent on the LSP, which we've started progress on, but I'm not entirely sure where it is. Maybe Aliaj might know, though, if he's available to speak.
We do have a VS Code plugin for the language for not for formatting. Yeah,
right, for syntax highlighting.
Not actually, yeah, syntax highlighting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we might be able to get you an answer with some better fidelity before this event is over. If not, we can get you on Discord. Can someone who gets React server components say if this looks reasonable to render different routes, route-based of auth? Maybe Alexandra?
Yeah, I already replied in the chat,
Oh,
but I
okay.
think this is
Gotcha.
reasonable. I usually, when doing things with EdgeDB off, I put it in the layout component because I keep it like server component all of the time, and then sometimes I convert like the children components to client ones. So so I keep that there, and I also handle all the like redirects on not like unauthenticated users in the layout as well.
Let us know if you have any more follow-ups on that. Looks like you've got a discussion going, maybe a more in-depth discussion elsewhere on Discord. Welcome, Aliash. And welcome to Frederick and Quinn too. I didn't say hello to you all. Sorry about that. Aliash, can you say anything about LSP progress? Someone was asking about a formatting plugin for VS Code.
Oh yeah. I'm working on experimental formatter, not formatter, LSP client, so that we would package some of our code from the EdgeDB server as a standalone binary that could be distributed directly to via the VS Code extension, and that extension would also contain the formatter. We don't have a timeline for this yet because this is all experimental, and I'm working on it just part-time when I'm not fixing bugs. But yeah, it is something that's in the works. How well it's going to work, we don't know before we try it. So I have no firm guarantees here.
There you have it. So in the works, but no ETA yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Also, we've got a question about a WebStorm plugin. I don't think that's specifically on our roadmap. I have this vague recollection that they have a ticket somewhere. Like there's a ticket with them that references that. But I don't know. I'll have to dig into that. Does anyone else happen to know anything about that?
We have a few plugins.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that we also support IntelliJ and WebStorm as well then.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure on that. Let me check. Where's the repo?
There was... The last thing I remember is there was talk that it was somewhat more difficult to build a plugin for the IntelliJ stuff than for VS Code, but maybe also that they were going to start supporting. I could just be making all this up.
Yeah, I have no experience with making VS Code.
Yeah.
IntelliJ plugins. And I found our repo, and it's plugin for Sublime Text, Atom, and VS Code. Yeah, so IntelliJ.
I think they have first class support for LSP. So once we have LSP, we'll be able to ship support for everything else through that. Yeah.
Got it.
And I'm not sure about Zed, but I think they also are LSP.
Okay.
Driven.
LSP will open a lot of doors. So.
Yeah, to be honest, it's not the hard part to make the LSP, at least the basic version of one. The hard part is to package it into all different packages the different IDs require. So we need a separate package for VS Code, special package for IntelliJ, and all of that needs to work on different architectures and different operating systems. And that's the real problem here, because we need to create another binary basically to distribute it to different computers.
We'll keep you updated on that as we continue to make progress. Throw it at DocsGPT and ask it to format it. That's a stopgap option. Yes, there is a channel for the hackathon. It's just hackathon. So feel free to hop in there. Oh yeah, looks like some people in the chat have caught you up there. All right. Can someone explain the template access policies from the template on some high level? I think I get it. but I would love to hear from a real person. We're talking about the template for the hackathon, I think. That's what we're looking at here.
Okay, so I will make an attempt to explain it as much as I can, but I hope that Scott will correct if I say something wrong. So the first thing, like the current users. So we are like in this schema. There's also a user type with some properties like ID name. I think also I created that, updated that, and then we are assigning to the current user variable. We are looking for a user that matches identity that is that belongs to currently authenticated user. So the global current user is the one that is currently authenticated, and then the policies. Then there's one admin has full access. So we are saying that we are allowing all operations like insert, create, update, insert, update, read, and so on. And the thing that we are checking here is that the currently authenticated user, their role is admin. Then we also have a policy creator has full access. So there's on this item type we have the created by. So here we are saying that we are allowing all operations for the user that is the creator. Like if the currently authenticated user is the creator, and then all the others should only have select operations. So this insert there should be removed, but the idea is that they don't have access to edit or insert anything.
Makes sense. Let us know if you have any follow-up questions. Seems like that was pretty good. Thank you, Alexandra. Here's another question for Sully. Will upcoming compiler enhancements speed up server startup and migrations applying? Or does that require a complete rewrite in a different language or platform? This might be applicable to you too, Aliash, or you might have knowledge of this.
Yeah, I would expect migration application to be one of the things we're trying to get some improvements on this cycle. Server startup, I don't know. Maybe. It isn't really affected by the planned work, but I think there also might be some not super hard things to do to speed that up. So
Yeah, does server startup include bootstrap time?
Oh yeah, right. Is this creating a new instance, Fox Pro? Does that? Yeah, I know. It's a little slow. But I don't think this is including bootstrap because the released versions don't do bootstrapping.
Oh yeah.
That's just a dev thing we have to suffer under.
Yeah, but isn't like startup of the EdgeDB server without bootstrapping or anything else like under a second always?
It's maybe a couple, but creating a new instance is a little slow.
Okay. Yeah, because that creates Postgres database.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we probably won't be able to improve that all that much.
We had the question, does order matter for the access policy, the order in which they're defined? And it does not. Select access policies do not throw, but transparently get hidden. Yeah, that's important. That can be, I don't know, for me, when I first saw that, it was a little, it wasn't exactly what I expected, I guess. So yeah, you'll just not get anything back if a select access policy hides something. I once asked if I could bundle EdgeDB into a Rust Tori app. Can someone expand how feasible this is? Someone said I should look into the EdgeDB CLI code and see how it communicates with EdgeDB. Any thoughts on that, bundling EdgeDB into a Rust Tori app?
Talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Yeah, most desktop apps don't use a kind of network-based data store like Postgres. So if you were to bundle EdgeDB with a desktop app, either Electron or Tower or anything, you would have to also be bundling EdgeDB itself, which contains Postgres, and then talk to it over the network, which is fine, but less efficient than typically desktop apps use some file-based or memory-based storage, which is a lot faster than making a round trip through your local network. So I don't think that we currently have a good story there for desktop app. Now, you can certainly write a desktop app that talks to a remote EdgeDB database, but if you want to use it to store your data locally, I don't think that makes a ton of sense.
I think we have
There's-
had users who have used their local file-based database in their app and then synced it out to an HDB app. So if that's actually what you need, that might be something to look into. But maybe it sounds like maybe you're just looking to reuse your existing queries. So maybe that's not so practical in that case. But Carson is loving branches. They are powering ephemeral instances for their test suite, and they let them try complicated migrations, and they can roll back by blowing away the branch and don't leave permanent dev migrations. Awesome. That's exactly what we intended them for, among a number of things, I guess. And here's another not question. I want the partially assembled team to know that I love EdgeDB. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a real progress driver for our team, democratizing our tech stack and making the impossible possible. That's very kind of you. We appreciate it. Postgres, as far as I know, is already ported to WASM. We need to actually rewrite EdgeDB to Rust to fix startup times and to make EdgeDB embeddable for standalone apps. Previous question was about embedding EdgeDB. So I wondered if that's at all something you're thinking about as you're doing some of the experimentation you're doing with rewriting various parts to Rust.
Maybe it would be easier to package HDB if it were written in Rust, package for WASM, that is. But being written in Python is not a blockage for doing the WASM stuff. It's just that that's a lot of work to get it working correctly. Yeah, I'm not sure how good is actually Postgres on WASM. Yeah, that would require a lot of experimentation. But theoretically, there is Python on WASM already, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is theoretically possible.
Yeah, okay. So maybe not so much a blocker then.
Yeah.
Do I understand correctly? You have perf optimizations for the TypeScript types in the pipeline. Otherwise, I need to buy a new MacBook. We don't want to force you to buy a new MacBook.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, the latest 5.4 version of TypeScript actually made some performance regressions in part of our inference framework. So it made parts of the code that were already kind of our worst performing types. In some cases, just like out of memory for TypeScript, even for my pretty beefy MacBook. So yeah, there's hopefully in the next, I want to say, few weeks, I'll have the bandwidth to work on our biggest offender, which is EOP, which is something you use constantly and is the worst performing type in the entire query builder. So I think if we can make some really big progress there, which my plan is to make really big progress there, then hopefully you can hang on to your current MacBook for a little bit longer. And then just in general, I haven't sat down to figure out what the priorities are for the next kind of release cycle for the EdgeDB.js thing, but I want type performance to be as good as it possibly can be by the time the next one comes out. That's kind of my personal highest priority, because I feel it. Even like I have to add tests to our test suite all the time, and for instance, our select test suite is several thousand lines of query builder code, and it grinds like crazy trying to just add anything to that test suite. So I do feel that pain. Probably not as much as you guys do, because you're writing the query builder code every day, but I really want to make big improvements there. And I am actually using a t-test from Archetype to benchmark our types. That's exactly what I'm using. Nikki, thanks for pointing that out. I'll link you to our current benchmarks.
Very cool. Yeah, so definitely something that we have on the radar. How are things going in the auth channel, Scott? What are you learning over there? Have you gotten feedback, or are people getting along well with what we have in place so far?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I'm learning is that right now our current documentation kind of drops you off at your own front door. Like we kind of stop where the extension itself stops. But we don't really address the integration as much as we should. So a lot of the questions end up being, once I get this identity back, how do I tie it to my user type? And how do I have users have multiple identities? How do I and we're missing a lot of reference documentation on the types that we provide. So for instance, there's an email factor type. So if you have users that have email password or one of the new passwordless email types, you can get they signed up with through that, but there's nowhere to actually find that information in the docs. So I think that sort of thing is the thing, reference documentation and some guidance about integrating the extension into your application. Those are kind of the two big things that I want to work on also in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Nice.
I think the hackathon is going to push a lot more of that. Like I'm going to find out a lot more of those pain points as people are integrating that. So I'm hoping after a couple of people suffer through trying to integrate it a little bit more, we'll have a pretty full picture of the friction there and write something comprehensive there.
Awesome.
Thanks for your future help on that, Devin.
Oh, sure. No problem. Happy to help. On the subject of the hackathon, Alexandra, are there any common questions that are coming up in the hackathon channel that we haven't already addressed? We've addressed that you can join solo. We've addressed that you can win the Discord prize without entering a project. Anything else that's sort of a recurring question that you've noticed?
No, I don't think so. I think we've been answering like pretty much right away. So we have the questions covered. But yeah, let us know if you have any other questions that were not answered or not answered like with enough detail.
Very cool. For those of you who have joined since we started, we are running a hackathon, and you can get more information about that in our new hackathon channel here on Discord. We'd love it if you would join us and build something cool that we can look at and give you a great prize for. What's the story for API access with EdgeDB auth? I let users get a token and then give access to certain operations.
Sure, I totally understand this question. If this is maybe server to server question, but yeah, maybe you can give access to certain operations. You mean allow them to make HTTP requests to your API? Okay, yeah. If they're getting it programmatically. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how I would approach this problem, but it's certainly doable. Those tokens are, well, if you just have people provide it. All right, if somebody talks to Walking Money. If if you give the user the token and the maybe the requesting client can add it to like a bearer authorization header or something like that, and then you just get the token out of that and use that to your database requests. That should work. I haven't played around with that. If you're the one who issues the token, it kind of depends on how you have them log in. Because the token gets issued to your app, like you receive the callback that contains the token after the user has authenticated. So, I mean, if you're just doing server to server stuff, you can do a much simpler thing, which is give them have a shared secret. But if you make an app for GitHub or something like that, you have the OAuth secret token. You can just create one of those for a user and give it to them, and then you know which user that is because you both share that secret. But if you wanted to have them log in through your login UI, then you would just intercept that when you get the callback with the token. You could then pass that token to the user, and then since that token contains their identity, you don't have to store anything additionally.
While we are waiting for some more things to come in, I would like to ask maybe Aliaj and Sully, what was the bug you fixed over this last cycle that was most personally painful that you were happy to get out of the way? And feel free to grouse about how things were before.
So for a long time, when I was in undergrad and grad school, I TA'd this operating systems class. And like students would have to write operating systems kernel, and then we'd sit down with the partnership and like go over their code. And one of the questions I always asked them in that interview was like, what was your favorite bug?
Mm-hmm.
I was really happy to get through a big refactor sort of late in the cycle of our intermediate representation, because we had a new hire and he was asking a bunch of questions about how what our intermediate representation meant, and I was like, oh yeah, this class, and I was like giving this like 4-way case analysis, and he was just sort of staring at me blankly, and I'm like, maybe I should refactor this a little bit.
Yeah, that was a nice one and a big one. It also touched like 25% of all the files that are committed to the repo. Yeah.
Sounds like a fun review, fun code review.
I don't even remember what we did this cycle. We fixed a lot of bugs.
Yeah. On my side, I refactored a lot of how we store aliases and how we store types generated by aliases. And that took me a while also. And it's funny to see the Git blame for some of these files because it's like 10 years back when Yuri started this thing, and the line never changed. Or you go through looking at the whole function, where did something came from, and you can see that it just evolved over time. Like a function that's 100 lines long had 10 different authors that no longer work here or founded the company. Yeah,
a lot of times I'm chasing through Git blame, and it comes back to like some PR from Elvis in 2017 with the message like major compiler rewrite for correctness and performance. I'm just like, all right.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
minus 8,000 plus 10,000. I was like, okay, we'll just stop there.
Yeah, effectively a dead end. Okay, here's another question. Globals are computed once per query now with V5, right?
Yeah, if it's a single global, yeah. Though sometimes it's actually twice. If it's like it might be once in the access policy context and once outside the access policy context. It no longer won't be n times. My favorite bug I fixed, and this isn't that interesting, but we switched to using Python 3.11 or 3.12 exception groups. Previously, we'd had our own notion of exception group, but when we switched to it, like our dumping of the errors, our like logging of those errors stopped working. So I had to go and fix up our like error formatting stuff to properly in our system dump these exception groups. And I wanted to have it like nicely indented when you're showing these sub errors, like because I wanted it with a header and I wanted it indented, but I didn't want it wrapping. And so I needed to like we have it sort of deep in the bowels of our code base, this system for like dumping debug information and nicely formatting it that Yuri and Elvis wrote like 1 million years ago at their consulting firm. Yeah. And so to like get this indenting working, I had to like fix it to do that Yuri had written in like 2009 or something. Which was fun. But also is like not important.
Yeah.
It was like to make some of the log stuff look nice on like and not even when it was going to a log file, like only when it was going to a terminal because it was me or someone running it. So, but that was definitely the funniest thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how have basically mimics some of the latest additions to Python ecosystem because, well, Yuri made those additions to the Python ecosystem. Yeah. Also the AST match that we had later basically got replaced by the match statement in Python.
Yep.
Gives us a kind of clairvoyance to know what's coming in Python.
Well, like a ton of like Python's async and await syntax was done by Yuri to support like, earlier versions of what eventually became EdgeDB.
Yeah. So they've sort of run in parallel a little bit some of the development of Python and EdgeDB.
Yeah, well, it used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yuri's still has got a PyCon talk this year.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Maybe how's that proposal of yours going?
Yeah, right. I also had I need to. Honestly, probably I'll end up writing some stuff up about the proposal I made at PyCon last year at PyCon this year.
I even forget what it is. Something with match.
Yeah. Like adding dunder match back to the match statement, so that like types can have customized pattern matching, which was originally in the proposal, and then people were like, does anyone really need this? And like most of the uses seem contrived. And so my role in this debate is just coming in being like, hey, 2 years later, someone who wasn't involved in the debate, here are like the actual cases where I would have wanted this.
Okay.
And here are the other ways we could accomplish it, but people liked those less.
I'm not sure if I support this. It's better to have stuff maybe sometimes more explicit than you would ideally want to, but be more readable in the long term and not have special dunder methods all over the place.
One of the proposals I actually liked a little more than the dunder match one was like adding a way that you could inject a function call into the match to say like, hey, make this function call and match on the result, which is sort of what like OCaml has for theirs.
Okay,
and I actually liked that more, and I had an implementation of it that worked, but I think community response was less excited about that, or like the dev summit was language summit was less excited. So
probably take a couple of more questions and then wrap up here. I've got one about a query builder in the Python client. I know that's something that we intend to do, although I don't know the current progress of it. Does anyone here have knowledge of that?
No, it's something we'd like to do. It's not something we've started trying to do.
Yeah. Okay.
The big problem is that like I don't know. If you want something that isn't typed, it like probably isn't that hard to build something.
Mhm.
If you want something that is typed, you might be doomed, which is sort of the frustration.
Yeah.
And like we could build like a MyPy plugin that we could like build a query builder and a MyPy plugin that understands it, except that you wouldn't get a lot of what's good about typing in this situation, which is like autocomplete, because like Pylance wouldn't understand it because it doesn't understand MyPy plugins, right? For obvious reasons. And so I don't know. Yeah, this was sort of the. This also frustrates me on a personal level a lot because I was like on the MyPy team at Dropbox for a long time, and like building a good language server protocol integration was always something that was on the roadmap for like 2 quarters from now, and it stayed 2 quarters from now until they moved us all to a site reliability engineering team, and so never happened. But like I think obviously if we had done that, we'd be in a much better place for my new job building a Python query builder.
Wait, you said that you wanted to build an API to a language server. Isn't that LSP?
We wanted to build a LSP integration for MyPy so that like MyPy could be an LSP server and do autocompletes and stuff.
Yeah. So we wouldn't need Pylance, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. And...
Yeah, unfortunately. Is Pylance closed source, the core LSP server?
I'm not sure.
All right. I think we will cut it off there. Thank you for everyone who joined us. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll circle back to any questions that were unanswered here and try to answer those for you on Discord. And we will do another session like this one, maybe not with quite as many people, but we might do another one of these someday too, maybe for a future launch. Thank you, all the members of the team who joined me. And thank you to the users who were asking questions and following along. And we will see you again soon.